My wife's phone buzzed at 2:07 in the morning. Not the soft kind of buzz you sleep through, but the sharp kind that slices straight into the dark. I was half asleep on my side of the bed, facing the wall, when the mattress dipped behind me. Claire shifted, and that cold blue light from her screen lit up the room. She went very still. You can feel it, even half asleep, when the person next to you freezes. Then, instead of just checking the phone, she flipped it face down on the nightstand. Screen off, light gone. If it had really been nothing, she would have just read it. Rolled her eyes at some late work email or sighed at a group chat. Normal married stuff. Instead, she did this exaggerated stretch and whispered, "Sorry, didn't mean to wake you. It's just work." Her voice was too bright for that hour. Too smooth. I mumbled, "Everything okay?" She hesitated for half a beat. "Yeah," she said. "They're just bothering me about tomorrow's presentation. Go back to sleep. I work in IT. I know what real late-night emergencies sound like. They sound rushed, annoyed, tired. They don't sound like someone performing calm." I didn't see the name on the screen. I didn't ask. I just watched the way she slid the phone under her pillow, instead of putting it back on the charger. She lay on her side, facing away from me, shoulders tight, phone pressed against her like a secret. A few minutes later, she let out a little sigh and added, softer, "Sorry, it's just been a lot lately." I stared at the red digits of the clock on my nightstand until they burned into my brain. 2:07 a.m. If you had asked me the day before whether I trusted my wife, I would have said yes without thinking. We had a house, a dog, routines, and the kind of boring stability people post about. Lying there in the dark, I had a different thought. Trust is one thing, but whatever just happened at 2:07 didn't feel like trust. It felt like a door had quietly opened into a part of her life I hadn't been invited into. I didn't sit up. I didn't start a fight. I just filed away the time, the tone, and the way she hid that screen, without knowing that this would become the very first entry in a story I would start writing down. The next morning, Claire moved around the bedroom like nothing had happened. Makeup bag on the dresser, hair straightener humming, work clothes laid out in a neat row. She checked her phone once, then twice, fingers moving fast before it disappeared into her bag. "Big day," she said, brushing on mascara. "If this pitch lands, it could be huge for us." Us. The word felt heavier than usual. "You okay?" she asked, catching my reflection in the mirror. "Yeah," I said. "Just tired." It wasn't a lie. It just wasn't the whole truth. After she left, the house went quiet the way it always did on weekday mornings. Max followed me into the kitchen and flopped down by my chair. I poured coffee, opened my laptop, and stared at the empty screen. At work, people come to me with vague complaints. Something's off. It's running slow. It just feels wrong. Feelings are where it starts. Logs are how you prove it. Until that night, my marriage had lived entirely in the feelings column. I believed things were fine because I wanted them to be. That morning, I decided to move one small thing into the log column. I picked up my phone, opened the Notes app, and created a new file. At the top, I typed, slowly, "Claire, things that don't add up." On the first line, I wrote, 2:07 a.m., phone buzzes, says it's work, hides screen, puts phone under pillow, says she's fine. It looked ridiculous, like the beginning of a conspiracy theory. Just one line in a blank note. But seeing it written down did something my brain couldn't do on its own. It separated the event from my emotions about it. Suspicion is a feeling. Evidence is a record. Sitting at the kitchen table, coffee going cold, I made myself a rule. I wasn't going to accuse her based on vibes. I wasn't going to snoop through messages or kick down doors like a bad movie. From now on, every time something felt off, I would write it down. Date, time, what she said, what actually happened. No confrontations. Not yet. Just documentation. If I was wrong, I wanted to be able to prove it to myself. And if I was right, I wanted more than a sick feeling in my stomach to stand on. On paper, my life looked exactly like what you're supposed to want in your mid-30s. Steady IT job, small house in a quiet neighborhood, a dog who thought he was a 70-pound lapdog, a wife with a good career and a better smile. Our weeks were predictable enough that you could have graphed them. Wake up, work, gym, if we weren't too tired. Takeout on Wednesdays, Netflix on the couch, her feet under my leg, Max snoring at our feet. Boring. In a way that had always felt safe. I used to be proud of how much I trusted Claire. I wasn't the let me see your phone guy. I didn't demand passwords or scroll through her messages when she was in the shower. I would have told you back then that if you needed to spy on your spouse, you probably shouldn't be married. The buzz at 2:07 a.m. didn't erase all of that, but it did change something important. The rules I was playing by. Trust, I realized, doesn't mean closing your eyes when something is right in front of you. It means paying attention and still choosing to believe the person you love is telling you the truth. The problem was, I wasn't sure anymore if she was. So I made a second rule for myself, right after I wrote that first note. Out loud, I would stay the same. No interrogation, no dramatic speeches, no late-night ultimatums. I'd ask about her day, hug her when she got home, keep our routines intact. Inside, I would be different. I would watch. I would notice when stories didn't quite line up. I would keep track of times and places most people forget the next morning. I wasn't going to go hunting for proof. I was going to let it come to me, one small inconsistency at a time. For a while, nothing huge happened. Life went on. Emails, errands, family group chats. If you had looked through our windows, you would have seen the same couple as always. The only difference was invisible. A growing list on my phone with a single line at the top that read 2:07 a.m. By the time the real red flags started to show up, that line wasn't alone anymore, and I'd already decided I wasn't going to confront her first. I was going to document. If you try to pinpoint when things started changing, it never lines up with the big moment. The buzz at 2:07 a.m. was the first time I admitted something felt off. But the shifts started weeks before that. Late January, Claire discovered a new phrase. Busy season. It's just busy season, Dan. Clients are intense right now. We all have to step up. At first it was small stuff. One extra late night at the office. One cancelled dinner with friends. One. Do you mind if I take this call in the other room? Nothing you could screenshot. Nothing you could hold up and say, this is wrong. Around the same time, her phone started acting like a second heartbeat. It used to live wherever she dropped it. Kitchen counter, coffee table, arm of the couch. Sometimes it would die at 15% and stay there all night. Now, it was always charged, always nearby, always face down. We'd be watching a show and it would buzz. Instead of ignoring it, she'd slide it closer, thumb moving just out of my line of sight. One night in early February, I picked it up to hand it to her when it vibrated on the table. The same thing I'd done 100 times. She snatched it a little too fast. Hey, don't, she said, then laughed like she was joking. It's work stuff. We're tightening security. They told us to keep our phones locked down. Okay, I said, handing it back. I was just giving it to you? She smiled, But it didn't quite reach her eyes. Later that week, I watched her change her passcode. She tilted the screen away from me while she did it. In 7 years together, she had never hidden a password from me. Now she did it like it was instinct. Little things piled up. She started coming home later, with explanations that were technically possible, but thinner than they used to be. Client drinks went long. We had to redo part of the deck. Traffic was terrible. No specific names, no real stories. Just vague shapes of a work life I didn't get to see anymore. I added lines to the note on my phone. Jan, 28. Late at office. Home 9:15. New perfume. No details. Feb 10. Grabs phone fast. Blames work security. Tension in her voice. Each entry by itself looked harmless, like an anxious husband cataloguing normal life. But taken together, they started to feel like something else. A pattern forming in the background, just out of focus. I still wasn't ready to use the word cheating. I wasn't even ready to say out loud that I thought she might lie to me. I just knew this. The version of our marriage I'd been living in, and the one that was actually happening, no longer felt perfectly aligned. And my note, line by line, was the only place where that misalignment was honest. The strange thing about suspicion is, you don't actually want to be right. Movies make it look satisfying. The big reveal, the dramatic confrontation, I knew it. In real life, all I wanted was a boring explanation that made me feel stupid for ever doubting her. For a while, I tried to talk myself out of what I was seeing. Maybe I was stressed. Maybe I was paying too much attention to my own note. Maybe this was just what 7 years of marriage looked like. More routine, less fireworks, phones always buzzing. Instead of calling out the distance, I tried to close it. I picked up more around the house, told myself she was tired. I suggested date nights, booked a restaurant she liked, tried to make the effort feel casual, not desperate. Some nights it even worked. We'd have a good dinner, split a dessert, laugh about something dumb from work. I'd drive us home thinking, "See? You're being dramatic. She's still here. You're fine." Then her phone would light up at 11:45. She'd roll onto her side and text with her back to me, screen angled away, while I pretended to fall asleep. I added another line to the note. Good date night, lots of laughing, late text after midnight, no explanation. I started running 2 scripts in my head. The first one was hopeful. It said, "She's under pressure. She's allowed to have bad weeks. Not everything is about you." The second one was quieter and only spoke up when the house was dark. It said, "Things that used to feel natural now feel like performances. People don't start performing for no reason." Every time I thought about asking her, really asking, "Is there someone else?" I could already see the fallout. If she said no, she could say I didn't trust her. If she said yes, everything after that sentence would be different. Either way, I would have to act. And I wasn't ready. So I did the only thing I felt capable of. I kept living our life on the surface, and I kept writing underneath it. I didn't call it evidence yet. That word felt too heavy. Secretly, I was still hoping that one day I'd look back at all those entries and think, wow, I really did overreact. She was telling the truth the whole time. The first real crack wasn't about a feeling, it was about a receipt. It was a Thursday night in April. I was on the couch with Max, half watching a game, half scrolling through my phone, when Claire called from the car. "Hey," she said, wind noise in the background. "We just wrapped a client thing. The team is heading to Harper and Main, that rooftop downtown. I'll probably be late. Don't wait up." Harper and Main is one of those places people post about. Skyline shots, pretty cocktails, twinkle lights. "Sounds fun," I said. Text me when you get home. Promise, she said, and hung up. An hour later, my phone buzzed again. Not her. The bank. Credit card purchase. Blue Oak Tavern, 9:42 p.m. Blue Oak is not a rooftop downtown. It's a dark bar 15 minutes from our house. Beer specials on a chalkboard, sticky tables, neon signs. I stared at the alert, waiting for my brain to supply a harmless explanation. Maybe the client wanted somewhere more casual. Maybe the rooftop was packed. Maybe her team changed plans. All technically possible. I took a screenshot anyway. Then I opened the note on my phone and added, "Told me. Harper and Main, rooftop with team. Card, Blue Oak Tavern, 9:42 p.m. My thumb hovered over her name. I almost wrote, "How's Harper and Main?" I could already hear the answer. It was too busy, so we went somewhere else. Why are you tracking my charges? That's weird, Dan. If she knew I was watching the data, she'd just learn how to hide better. I put the phone down. When she came home later, she smelled like fried food and a perfume that wasn't hers. She kicked off her heels and dropped her bag by the door. "How was Harper and Main?" I asked, keeping my voice light. "Good," she said, without blinking. "You would have loved the view. Clients were exhausting. I'm wiped." She kissed the top of my head and went upstairs to shower. I picked up my phone again. The screenshot was still there. Blue Oak Tavern. 9:42 p.m. Sitting alone in the living room, TV flickering, I felt something shift for good. I stopped asking, "Am I being paranoid?" I started asking, if she's willing to lie about somewhere this small, what else is she comfortable lying about? And for the first time, I knew I wasn't just keeping a note. I was going to build a record. Suspicion got me as far as a note on my phone. The Blue Oak charge pushed me further. One Saturday morning, while Claire was at yoga, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop open and a blank spreadsheet staring back at me. In the first row, I typed the headers, date, time. What she told me. What actually happened. Evidence? Notes. Then I started copying from my notes app. Jan 28, home late, said client dinner, no names. Feb 10, grabs phone fast and blames work security. APAR 12, said Harper and Main rooftop. Card shows Blue Oak Tavern. On my phone, each moment had been isolated. On the spreadsheet, they lined up like a timeline. It stopped feeling like random weird nights and started looking like a pattern. Next, I pulled up our detailed phone bill. Normally, I just checked the total and paid it. This time, I downloaded the full log. Pages of calls and texts, my number, her parents, friends, work contacts. And then I saw it. The same unfamiliar number over and over again. Short calls during the day, longer ones at night. Text clusters around the times she was working late or out with the team. I scrolled back a few months. At first it was just a few calls, then more, then almost every day. I highlighted the number on the PDF and wrote it into the spreadsheet. Unknown number, frequent contact. It would have been easy to spiral right there. Instead, I forced myself into the same mindset I use at work. What I knew was simple. Claire's stories about her nights out and the hard data from our accounts did not always match. There was a real pattern forming, not in my imagination, but in logs, on paper. I still didn't know exactly what it meant. I just knew it wasn't nothing anymore. If phone logs show you who someone talks to, location history shows you where their life actually happens. I remembered setting up Claire's phone when she upgraded last year. I was the one who turned on Find My so we could locate it if she lost it. It wasn't a secret. She'd rolled her eyes and called me overprotective, but she'd never turned it off. One afternoon on my lunch break, I opened the app. My blue dot sat on the office park. Underneath was Claire's name. I tapped it. Her phone showed near her office, exactly where she said she was. That was oddly comforting and unsettling at the same time. If location had been on this whole time, it meant her phone had quietly kept a record of every late night and client drink. That night, after she fell asleep on the couch, I picked up her phone with the dirty dishes. I didn't open her messages. I went to Settings, Privacy, Location Services, Significant Locations. Face ID asked for her face. She was right there, asleep. I held the phone up. It unlocked. Home, office, gym, coffee shop by the highway. All normal. Then I saw an address I didn't recognize. Not a bar, not a restaurant, just an apartment complex across town, marked as frequent. Her phone said she'd been there a dozen times in 6 weeks. I memorized the street name, put the phone back, and later wrote in the spreadsheet, unknown apartment address, 12 visits, 6 weeks. I could have driven there, sat in the car like some movie cliché. Instead, I focused on cross-checking. Every time she said, late night with the team, I noted the time and checked the pattern later. Office, apartment, bar, home. Around the same time, her own social media went quiet. But her co-workers kept posting. Rooftop bars, clinking glasses, location tags. One story showed them at Bar A at 9:18 p.m. That same night, our card had a charge at Bar B across town. I added another line. Co-worker story, Bar A. Her text, team drinks, card, Bar B. Alone, each mismatch had a possible excuse. Together, they built a version of her nights that didn't match the one she told me. For a while, I tried to live with just the unknown number and the strange locations. It was easier to think of it as data than as a real person. That changed on a random Friday when my co-worker Mike leaned into my office. "Hey man," he said. "You still living over on the east side?" "Yeah," I said. "Why?" He shrugged. "I thought I saw Claire the other night at Blue Oak. Wasn't sure if it was her, didn't want to be weird." My stomach tightened. "When?" I asked, trying to sound casual. "Last Thursday," he said. "I was there with a couple guys. She was in a booth near the back with some dude. Tall, dark hair, business casual. They looked focused. I figured client or something." He hesitated. "Could have been someone else," he added. "I just recognized the ponytail." I forced a small smile. "Yeah," I said. "Could have been anyone." After he left, I opened the spreadsheet and found that date. Blue Oak charge. Cluster of calls with the unknown number. No texts to me after she left. I added, "Co-worker saw her at Blue Oak with tall, dark-haired man. No co-workers mentioned to me. A week later, we were driving to her sister's place. Claire offered to drive and plugged her phone into the car for music. Halfway there, the car's Bluetooth screen lit up. Incoming call, Eric M. Claire stabbed the steering wheel button and killed the call before it rang. "Spam," she said quickly. "They spoof local names now. It's creepy." Spam doesn't show up as a saved contact. I didn't argue. I just watched the name disappear. That night, I sat down at my laptop and typed Eric M. and her company's name into LinkedIn. His profile popped up immediately. Tall, dark hair, professional headshot. Senior account manager in the same building as Claire. Mutual co-workers. In one rooftop group photo, he and Claire were standing just a little closer than everyone else. I saved the screenshot and wrote his name into the spreadsheet. Unknown number, likely. Eric M., co-worker. The next time her phone was on the coffee table, charging while she folded laundry, I opened her contacts. I pretended to look for Mom to send a dog picture. I scrolled to the E's. There he was. Eric M. I didn't open the card. I didn't need to. Later, I filtered the phone bill by that number only. The log stretched back 6 months. At the beginning, a few workday calls, then evenings, then late nights, then weekends. What started as a drip had turned into a steady stream. I wasn't looking at a one-time mistake. I was looking at a second relationship that had been growing quietly in the background of my marriage. I wish I could say I exploded. Threw something. Yelled. Mostly I just felt tired. The kind of tired that sits in your bones. I opened a new document and titled it Timeline. Claire and Eric. I copied in dates from the logs. First call. First late-night cluster. The night at Blue Oak. The unknown apartment visits. At some point, I realized I didn't want all of this to live only in the cloud. So I printed the key pages, phone logs with his number highlighted, credit card statements with certain charges circled, a map of that apartment area, the Blue Oak and team drinks nights. I slid them into clear sheet protectors. Then I bought a thin black binder from the office supply aisle and wrote one word on the spine in small letters: insurance. I put it on the shelf in my home office, between old project documentation and training manuals no one but me ever touched. On the outside, I stayed steady. I went to work, cooked dinner, watched shows, listened to Claire talk about clients. The calmer I acted, the more relaxed she seemed. That told me something important. She had no idea how much I already knew. I wasn't collecting all this to shout, "I caught you," in the kitchen. I was collecting it because I could feel that this was going to end in offices and courtrooms where feelings didn't matter, but timelines and documents did. I didn't want to walk into that part with nothing but a broken heart. I wanted a record. I didn't pick a divorce attorney off a billboard. A co-worker's friend sent me 3 names. 2 of them had loud websites, promising to destroy your ex in court. The third was a woman named Ms. Harris. Her site had one quiet line: I help people protect themselves when their marriages end. That was the one I called. Her office was on the 3rd floor of an old building downtown. No marble lobby, just a tired elevator and a waiting room with mismatched chairs. When she opened the door and said my name, she didn't tilt her head or offer a pity smile. She just shook my hand and said, "Come on back." Her office was more files than furniture. The only thing on the wall was a framed print that read, "Facts, not stories." It felt uncomfortably on brand. We sat. She clicked a pen. "Tell me what's going on and what you want," she said. I didn't start with feelings. I started with the binder. "I've been documenting for about 6 months," I said, sliding it across her desk. "Phone logs, card statements, location history. I know her co-worker's name. I know how long it's been going on. I just haven't confronted her." She opened the binder and flipped through pages. No gasps, no drama. Just underlining dates, circling patterns. "How long have you suspected?" she asked. "About 6 months," I said. "I'm sure now." She nodded once. "Good," she said. "Strategically, that helps you." I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. "Does any of this actually matter?" I asked. "Or am I just torturing myself with spreadsheets?" She sat back. "Short answer, yes, it matters," she said. Long answer, it matters if we use it correctly. Judges care less about how hurt you are, and more about timelines, money, and behavior that affects finances or kids. "We don't have kids," I said. "That simplifies some things," she replied, "and it focuses us on assets." She tapped the page with the hotel charges. "Right now, you have a clear pattern of marital misconduct, a long-running affair, paid for with marital funds, covered with lies. In this state, that can absolutely influence how property is divided. I swallowed. So I'm not crazy, I said. She looked up. You're not crazy, she said. You're thorough. There's a big difference. After that, the conversation turned from what had happened to what needed to happen next. Here's what we do, she said. We freeze a picture of your finances as they exist right now. You gather statements, checking, savings, credit cards, retirement, mortgage. You print them. You keep hard copies. If she suddenly starts moving money around after she finds out you know, we can show the court what normal looked like. I nodded. Do I move anything now? I asked. Pull cash? Close accounts? She shook her head. Not yet, she said. Courts hate games. Bills keep getting paid from the same place. You keep doing what you've been doing. Quiet preparation is different from hiding assets. She flipped to another page in the binder. One more thing, she added. You're in a one-party consent state. That means you can legally record conversations you're part of without telling the other person, as long as you're not breaking into anything to do it. I pictured Claire crying, insisting I'd misread everything, twisting my doubts back on me. Gaslighting, I said. Exactly, she replied. Evidence is how you stop gaslighting from working on judges, on family, and on yourself. Before I left, she slid a short checklist across the desk. No dramatic moves yet, she said. Don't move out. Don't threaten her with what you know. Don't say the word lawyer in a fight. Right now, you're in a strong position. Informed, quiet, still married. You control the timing. Don't give that up by reacting emotionally. I closed the binder. So I just go home and act normal? I asked. On the surface, yes, she said. Underneath, you keep doing what you're already good at. Collecting facts. I walked out of that office with the binder under my arm, a checklist in my pocket, and something I hadn't had in months. A plan that wasn't just wait and see. The marriage might have been falling apart, but for the first time I felt like I wasn't. The smoking gun showed up disguised as a normal text. One afternoon, Claire messaged me from work. Big news. Might have to go to Chicago overnight for a client pitch. They're putting me up at the Hyatt by the river. She'd travelled for work before. Nothing about that sounded weird on its own. A few days later, I logged into our credit card to pay a bill. There was a little banner that said, Upcoming Travel. I clicked it. Lakeside Inn and Suites, Reservation, C, last name, and E, last name, King Room, weekend. Not Chicago, not a Hyatt. A lakeside hotel 2 hours away, with both their initials on the booking. I scrolled down, confirmation number, dates, our card on file. I took a screenshot, printed it, and slid it into the very front of the binder. This wasn't just a mismatch. This was a weekend, deliberately planned and paid for, with my name on the account and his name on the room. At our next meeting, I showed the printout to Ms. Harris. She studied it for a moment, then nodded. This is very useful, she said. Names, dates, location. Clear mismatch with what she told you. Do I stop her from going? I asked. Tell her I know? Cancel the card? She shook her head. No, she said. You let her go. Don't interfere. While she's away, you document everything. Charges, texts, what she says she's doing. She paused. When she comes back, she added, that's when you have the conversation. Calm. At home. With your recorder on. The word sat heavy in the air. Is that really necessary? I asked. If she's been lying this easily for this long, Ms. Harris said, she's not suddenly going to become honest the moment she realizes you know. A recorded conversation in a one-party consent state can be very persuasive later. The weekend of the Chicago trip came fast. That morning, she wheeled her suitcase to the door and kissed me. "Wish me luck," she said. "Big pitch." "Good luck," I replied. "Text me when you land." When the door closed, I sat at the kitchen table, opened a simple recording app, and created a new file. Post-trip conversation. Date. I didn't hit record yet. That part was for when she came back. When she got back from her Chicago trip, she looked exhausted in a way that felt more emotional than physical. She dropped her suitcase, hugged me, and said, "Trip went well. I'll tell you everything later. I just need a shower." I let her have it, let her unpack, let her slide back into our house like nothing had happened. After dinner, we sat on the couch with some forgettable show on. She tucked her feet under a blanket. I slipped my phone into my pocket, opened the recording app, and hit start. The screen went dark. The app kept running. "Can I ask you something about your trip?" I said. She smiled, relaxed. "Yeah, of course," she said. "What's up?" "How was Chicago?" I asked. She didn't flinch. "It was good," she said. "Long. Clients demanding, but I think it went well. The Hyatt had this amazing river view." "Hyatt by the river," I repeated. "Did you go alone?" She paused just long enough that the silence felt loud. "Yeah," she said. "My boss bailed last minute. It was just me and the client team." I nodded slowly. "So you flew to Chicago, stayed at the Hyatt by the river, met with the client, and flew back. All by yourself." She shifted under the blanket. "Why does this sound like a cross-examination?" she asked, with a little laugh. "Because it kind of is," I said. The room went quiet. "Can I tell you what I see?" I asked. "When I look at last weekend on our card?" She didn't answer. "I see a reservation at Lakeside Inn and Suites," I said. 2 hours from here. Not in Chicago. Not a Hyatt. Under your name and Eric's. 1 king room, 2 nights. Her face went very still. "I see charges from the hotel restaurant, a steakhouse, a wine bar, a spa. All while you were texting me about a big client pitch in Chicago." She swallowed hard. "Dan, what are you talking about?" she asked. "You didn't go to Chicago," I said. "You went to the lake with Eric. For a second, I thought she might double down. Say the card was wrong. Say there was some mix-up. Instead, she exhaled. "Okay," she said quietly. "Can we slow down a second?" She twisted her fingers together. "Yes," she said. "I've been seeing Eric. It started slow. We were working late, talking, texting. Things at home felt stale. I didn't plan it. It just happened." "How long?" I asked. "About 7 months," she said. "Longer, if you count before anything physical." The recorder in my pocket didn't care how she framed it. It only cared that she said it out loud. She rushed on. "We can fix this," she said. "I'll block him. I'll switch teams. We'll go to counseling. We don't have to tell anyone. We can start over." I shook my head. "I've already talked to a lawyer, Claire," I said. Her eyes widened. "You what?" "A divorce attorney," I said. "I've been documenting this for months. Calls, charges, locations, that trip. This conversation." She stared at my pocket. "You're recording me?" she asked, her voice sharp. "Yes," I said. "We live in a one-party consent state. I'm done leaving my reality up to whoever tells the better story later. I didn't call Eric. I didn't want to hear his voice. The only person I kept thinking about was the woman in his profile picture. Her name was Lauren, his fiancée. I'd seen their engagement photos weeks earlier. Sunlight, a field, her hand on his chest, a caption about forever. Back then, I'd scrolled past. Now I opened my laptop. Their wedding website had an email address for RSVPs and questions. I started a new message. Subject line: "You don't know me, but I think you should see this." I typed slowly, keeping my hands steady on the keys. "Hi, Lauren. My name is Daniel. Last name. I believe you're engaged to Eric. Last name. My wife, Claire, works with him. I'm not reaching out to start drama or to ask you for anything. I'm reaching out because I have months of documentation showing that Eric and Claire have been in a relationship behind both our backs. Phone logs, card charges, and a recent weekend at Lakeside Inn and Suites, booked under both their names." I attached redacted copies of the reservation, the matching card statement, and one phone log with his number highlighted. I ended with, "You don't owe me a response. I just didn't want you walking into a marriage without information I wish I'd had sooner." Divorce court wasn't cinematic. No dramatic lighting, no big speeches, just fluorescent bulbs, worn carpet, and a judge who had already heard every version of "they betrayed me" twice before lunch. By the time we got there, things between Claire and me were strangely polite. We had already done the late-night arguments, the crying, the bargaining. Now it was paperwork and calendars. Her attorney framed it as two people who drifted apart. A brief, more emotional than physical mistake. A marriage that had simply run its course. If that was all the judge had, he might have bought it. Then Ms. Harris opened the binder. She didn't slam it down. She just laid it on the table, flipped it open, and walked through it like a report. Phone logs with one number highlighted, card statements with hotel charges circled, the Lakeside Reservation with both their names, the transcript line where Claire said, "It's been going on about 7 months." Claire's attorney went quiet for a long moment. "We're not disputing all of this," he said finally. "We're just asking the court to see it in context." Ms. Harris stayed calm. "The context," she said, "is that Ms. Old's last name used marital funds to carry on a months-long affair, while my client maintained the home, the bills, and the marriage he believed he was in. He isn't asking to punish her. He's asking for a fair distribution that reflects who respected the partnership and who didn't." We settled before it turned into a full trial. In the end, I kept the house. I kept my retirement accounts. We split the remaining savings and debts in a way that didn't leave me paying for her choices for a decade. No alimony. We earned about the same. We were both capable of standing on our own. When the judge signed off, he looked at the file and said, "I see marriages end every day. I don't always see this level of documentation. Mr. Your last name, I hope you never need records like this again. Missed our last name, I suggest you think about your digital footprint the next time you're unhappy." Then he tapped his pen, and just like that, it was over. Outside of court, the fallout didn't happen all at once. Claire moved into a small apartment near her office. On social media, she posted a photo of a plant on a windowsill with a caption about new chapters and growth. Friends commented, "Proud of you. Onward. You deserve better." I didn't correct anyone. I didn't comment at all. From what I heard, she told some people it had been a mutual decision, that we'd grown apart, that we were better as friends. If someone pushed, was there someone else? She gave a sad smile and said, "It's complicated." At the office, she hinted that I had become controlling about money, that I had gone through everything and made her feel like a suspect. That story might have worked if it was the only one out there, but people talk. Coworkers had seen her at Blue Oak more than once. Some had noticed her and Eric together on nights that were supposedly client events. And somewhere across town, Lauren had her own version. Their wedding website quietly disappeared. No new date, no new venue, just gone. I don't know exactly what happened between them. I just know the engagement didn't survive my email. At work, I sent HR a short message that one of their employees had carried on a relationship with my spouse, another employee, using at least one work trip that was not actually work. They replied with a formal line about taking these matters seriously and internal review. I didn't ask for his job. I didn't stalk his profile. All I wanted was to make sure he couldn't stand in that office, joking about his wedding, while quietly scheduling hotel weekends with my wife, and pretend nobody knew. Those days were over. The paperwork had done its job in court. The truth, quietly shared with the right people, did the rest. The part no one makes movies about is what happens after. The first night I slept in the house alone, Max paced the hallway like he was waiting for a sound that wasn't coming. I stared at the ceiling, wondering how you're supposed to feel when you finally get what you asked for. Out of a marriage you can't trust, with your finances intact, with the truth on your side, and a big blank space where your future used to be. I started therapy partly because Ms. Harris suggested it, and partly because I didn't want this to become my whole personality. In one session I said, I feel stupid for ever believing her. And I feel even dumber for needing a spreadsheet to trust my own eyes. My therapist shook her head. You're not stupid for trusting your spouse, she said. You'd be in trouble if, after all of this, you still didn't trust your own perception. Progress came in small measurements. The first night I slept through without waking up around 2 a.m., waiting for a buzz. The first week I didn't check an account, expecting a new crisis. The first day I realized I hadn't replayed the confrontation in my head on a loop. I built new routines, longer walks with Max, a weekend woodworking class, Sunday dinners at my sister's place where I was actually present. Every once in a while, I opened the binder. At first, it hurt. Later, it felt more like reading an old medical chart. This is what was wrong. This is what we did. This is when it ended. Months later, I ran into Claire at the grocery store. 2 carts. Same aisle. You look good, she said. You too, I answered. As we parted, she said, I really am sorry, you know. I know, I said, and I did. Forgiveness and reconciliation are 2 different things. These days, when people hear the story, they always react to the documentation. You kept a spreadsheet? You recorded the conversation? You emailed his fiancée? I tell them this. Recording everything didn't just help in court. It saved me from her gaslighting. It saved me from the version of the story where I was paranoid, overdramatic, controlling. And just as important, it saved me from becoming someone who believed that version. Now, if my phone buzzes at 2 a.m, it's usually spam. I check it, roll over, and go back to sleep. Not because I'm naive, but because I finally know the difference between blind trust and earned peace.